Hey guys, in today's video we're checking out all of the global settings in the HX Stomp. I know global settings isn't the most sexiest topic, it's not the most interesting. However, I think it is valuable to go over all of these because I almost guarantee that at some point during this video you're going to have a, oh, I didn't know I could do that. It's valuable to know how to use your equipment, and you're likely going to discover something new while watching this video. I actually discovered a few things and changed some of my settings in my HX Stomp while researching this video actually, so it's definitely worth it. But we're going to go all the different global settings, the ins and outs, the preferences, the foot switches, the expression pedals, MIDI, and displays. I will post time codes down below so you can skip around. However, I do recommend that you watch the whole thing because, like I said, you might not know that your HX Stomp can do this, and you might have the aha moment like I did a couple of times while researching this. But if you feel like skipping around, the option's there. So before we get started, I post videos like this all the time, stuff on HX Stomp, Helix, MIDI, wireless gear reviews in your monitors, programming, stuff like that. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to ring the bell. All right, let's get started. Okay, so it starts off a little bit boring, but just hang in there. And again, remember, if one of these doesn't apply to you, go ahead and skip to the next one. You're not going to have to know all of these, but again, I almost guarantee that at least one or two of them you're going to go, oh, awesome, and change the settings. So first of all, to get to your global settings, you push these two buttons right here, the two page buttons, scroll over, and global settings right there. So using this knob up here, you can scroll through all 6 of the different global settings. So you have ins and outs, preferences, foot switches, expression pedals, MIDI, and displays. Okay, I'm just going to start from the beginning. Ins and outs. So the input level, do you want it an instrument or a line? Most of the time, you're going to want this on instrument. If you're using it with a guitar or bass and stuff like that, set it to line if you're using it with like a keyboard or something like that. But I think most of you are going to use it with instrument. So output level, instrument or line as well. If you are sending this out to an amp, so you're going guitar into the HX Stomp out to an amp, you want to set this to instrument. If you're going guitar into the HX Stomp into other pedals and then into an amp, still set it to instrument. If you're running it direct, just running it direct into like a mixer or the front of house or something like that, you can set it to line. Trust your ear on this more than anything, but that's generally what you want to do. Instrument if you're going to amp, line if you're going direct. Same with the send and return. So you have the send and return ports on the side here. Do you want that set at instrument or line? So you have send and return left or send and return right. And you can set those to instrument or line for either one of those. I promise it'll get more interesting. This is kind of the boring part right at the very beginning. So it's the same idea. If you're sending this out, if you're using the send and return to go to other stomp boxes and stuff like that, you're going to want to set this to instrument. If you're using it with a keyboard or drum machines or something like that, you'll get used to line, but most of the time you're going to use instrument if you're sending that out to extra stomp boxes. Again, you have the same right here. So return type, return or aux in. So if you look at the side right here, that actually says return or aux in. So I actually didn't know this. You have 2 different options right here, return and aux in. So if you're using it as a send return with other stomp boxes and stuff like that, you want to have it on return and just works as a send and return. And, you know, it goes in and it processes through the HX Stomp. If you set it to aux in, that's what you use if you're going to plug in something for like backing tracks and stuff like that. So you don't really want to do the processing and all the distortions and delays and stuff in your HX Stomp. So if you set it to aux in, you plug in your backing tracks, however you're getting those, and then it doesn't go through the processing of the HX Stomp. It's actually really nice, and I wasn't aware that they did that, because if you have it on return and you plug in there, you're going to get all the distortion and stuff in your backing tracks, and you don't want that. So you want that set to aux in. Pretty cool. USB in, that is if you're getting audio in the USB in, which I never have done. I didn't even know that was an option, to be honest. But if you want to change the trim or volume of it, you can do that here. And most of the time, you're probably just going to leave that at normal. And just a shortcut, by the way, if you set it to a different setting and you want to set it back to the default, just push the button and it goes right back to normal. Scrolling over, phones monitor. Do you want it to be main left and right or send? It's kind of a weird one. So you have your headphone out right here. Do you want to hear what is coming out of the main left and right? Or do you want to hear what is coming out of the send port here? I don't really know why you would do the send port. That's kind of an interesting setup, but I can't really see a use for that. And I think most of the time you're going to leave it on left and right. This volume control thing is really interesting. It doesn't actually have anything for me, so I actually had to look it up in the manual. This determines whether the volume knob up here, this volume knob, does it control both the main outputs, you know, the left and right outputs, your main outputs, and the headphone out here on the side. Does that control the volume of both? Or if it's set to just headphones, just phones, it just controls the headphones, and then the main left and right is set to unity gain, and it doesn't change anything. So this controls just the volume of your headphones. Kind of interesting. But again, like I said, mine is blank. I wonder if that's just a weird glitch in mine. But I don't really use this with headphones anyways, so I'm not too worried about it. Okay, scrolling over, preferences. Bypass type, I'm going to get to that at the end. In my opinion, that's the most useless one, so I'm just going to get to it at the end so it doesn't bore you guys to death. Snapshot edit, discard or recall. This is really cool. So I did a whole video on snapshot mode. If you're not familiar with it, go check that out after you watch this video. Snapshot mode's the way that I use the HX Stomp. I think it's the most valuable way to use it personally. It all depends on your setup, but check out my video on that if you're interested. So in snapshot mode, I have my 3 different snapshots right here. So in this one, I have like a clean, kind of a little more rhythm, and then a bass. So what happens is if you look at the blocks here, see which ones are on and which ones are off when I switch between these. So for example, when I switch from snapshot 3 to snapshot 2, the purple block turns off and the green one turns on. That's my pitch and my delay. So going back to global settings, when I am in bass snapshot mode, and then I switch to distortion snapshot, and then go back to my bass snapshot, do I want to discard any changes that I've done, or do I want to recall all the changes that I've done? So watch. So on my normal snapshot for snapshot 3, the delay is turned off. Say I change that, I turn the delay on. Now when I go to snapshot 2, it turns it on. But snapshot 3, it remembers that I wanted the delay turned on. So whatever I did last in that snapshot, do I want to remember what changes I made to it? Or in discard, which is the way I use it, let me reset it really quick. If I am messing around in this one, I turn on my delay in snapshot 3, then I go to snapshot 2. When I go back to snapshot 3, it is just reset it back to however I stored snapshot 3. If that didn't make sense, it's probably because you don't understand how snapshot mode works. So again, I recommend watching my video on that. It's definitely worth it. Snapshot mode's probably the best way to use this in my opinion. So tempo pitch, this was an interesting one that I did not know, and I actually reset this up. So this determines the sound the delay makes when you use a tap tempo. So in my setup, this is the Mission Engineering TT2. I'll post a link down below. This is one of the best additions that I've made to my HX Stomp. It's so compact and gets me 2 extra buttons. But I have this set to the tap tempo. I'm just going to go to an empty preset here. I'm going to put in a delay, just a simple delay. It doesn't really matter. So if I mess with the time of my delay, see how it changes the pitch when I change it? That brings it down. That brings it up. So when I use my tap tempo, so let me set this to quarter note. So here's my delay. This is my tap tempo. So I'm gonna put kind of a faster one, kind of a slower one. So in preferences, the tempo pitch, do you want it authentic or transpose? When it's on authentic, when I do that tap, see how it changes the pitch of it? So here's a slower one. I speed it up and it changed pitch. If I don't want that, you set it to transposed and then it won't do that. So here's a slow one. And it switches to fast and it doesn't chipmunk it. Of course, add that sped up. It's really cool, and I actually didn't know that it did that. You'll still get the sound if you want to do like ambient stuff and you manually change it. You can still get that sound, but when you use the tap, it doesn't change the pitch of it. Really cool, and I didn't actually know about that. So as I was researching this, I set that to transpose because I don't want it to do that type of sound. All right, moving over. If you're using the expression out up here, right here, this is what you use to connect to expression pedals or foot switches. You can either use a TS cable and get one, or you can get a splitter, a TRS to a tip ring splitter. It looks like this. So what happens is you plug in the TRS cable here, and then the one that is labeled tip is controlled by tip, and the one that is ring is controlled by ring. So for my TT2 pedal, I actually just need a TRS to TRS cable. I don't need to do the split because that's the way it's configured. So this top button here responds to the tip and the bottom one responds to the ring. So just pay attention to whatever your pedal is set to. Yours might be a little bit different, but that's how mine is set up. So the tip cable, is it set to a foot switch? This one is, because this is foot switch 1, 2, 3, and now we have 4 and 5. I don't use an expression pedal usually when I play. But if I did want to do that, I would set this to expression pedal 1. What ring is plugged into? Is it foot switch 5? In my case, right here it is. But if I wanted to set it to expression pedal 2, I would do that right there. Make sense? The tip polarity and the ring polarity, you can do normal or inverted. That's what it gives you the option for both. So let's say that every time that I push this button, it wasn't responding the way I wanted to. It would invert. Or actually, a better way to describe it is if I'm using it with like a volume pedal, and whenever the volume pedal was all the way down, and the volume was supposed to be 100%, and it was actually muting the volume, and then when I pulled it back, it was actually turning the volume up. That's opposite of how I want a volume pedal to work. So if that's having the problem, flip the polarity of it, and it should work just fine. It just depends on which expression pedals you're using. Some of them, you just have to flip the polarity in order to get them to work right. So again, whatever cable is plugged into tip, if you're getting problems, switch it to inverted. Whichever one is on ring, again, if you're having problems, switch it to inverted. Preset number, this is pretty self-explanatory. So right now, this is on preset 113, 110, stuff like that. If you want to set it to 1A through 43C, you can do that. So everything has, 40 has presets A, B, and C. 41, A, B, and C. It all just depends on how you use your HX Stomp. If you switch between preset mode, like this might be more valuable for you. So like this is kind of like my Soldano area. This is actually the only spot on my HX Stomp where I really do this. So these are my different Soldano tones. That might be valuable to you. However, for me, I actually just like to leave it in preset 0 through 125. Okay. Snapshot Reselect, this is the goofiest one. Leave a comment down below if you know what purpose you would use this on. So again, I normally use this in snapshot mode. So this is snapshot 1, 2, and 3. If you set this to toggle, this is so goofy. I really don't know why they do this. I'm on snapshot 3. If I push snapshot 3 again, it goes to the previous snapshot. So again, if I push 2, it goes to whatever the previous one I selected was. So if I'm on 1, last one I was on was 2. So when I push 1, it goes back to 2. If I push 2, it'll go back to 1 because that was the most previous snapshot I was on. I have no idea why you would do that. To me, it's just I would select whatever snapshot I wanted to do. Seems kind of goofy, so just leave that on reload, unless if you know why you would use that. Okay, this one, the Auto In Z, I'm just going to be honest, this is above my pay grade. I'm going to show a copy of the manual up on the screen. If you understand this better than I do, or why you would use this, you're smarter than I am. But yeah, I didn't understand this one. So props to you if you get it. Okay, going over to foot switches. So Stomp Select. This is one that I actually changed while I was researching this. You have off, touch, press, and both. So what happens is, let me go to a preset where I have a lot of stomps enabled. So here we go. This one right here. So I have this assigned to, here's a kind of a Scream 808, a tremolo, and then a dynamic delay. If I wanted to change the settings of it, I could actually just tap on the side and it loads that one. See, I'm not pushing on it, I'm just tapping it. So it's a quick way to edit your effects. So say I really want to change the sound of this, and now I'm going to change it to a different type of effect. I want to change this one, I'm going to change that. It's just a quicker way to change through these, which is convenient. So when I set that to off, it doesn't do that. Doesn't matter when I touch it, it just stays wherever the knob is set to. So off doesn't do anything. Touch, it will load that setting so I can, for faster editing. If I set it to press, it doesn't do anything when I touch it, but when I press it, then it loads it. So here's the tremolo. here's the Scream 808, and then here's the dynamic delay. Make sense? Or you can set it to both, and so if I press it or if I tap it, it'll load it. So I actually usually leave that on touch. I had that on off this whole time. It's actually pretty nice. Okay, Footswitch 3 function. What do you want to set Footswitch 3 to do? This Footswitch 1, 2, and 3. So you can set it to tap tuner. So it's always a tap tuner, no matter what you're on. See how, well, I guess not in snapshot mode, but I can have 2 buttons and always a tap tuner, which is nice. So now this is always assigned to a tap tuner. And then I can have 2 different buttons right here, or I can go up and down presets. However, I have it set to Stomp 3 because that's usually what I want it to do. But you can set it to be always be preset up, preset down, snapshot up, snapshot down, all bypass, or toggle between the different expression pedals. So let's say I put it to preset down. See, in the Stomp mode, it's always just going to do preset down. For me, I usually just leave it on Stomp 3. Same thing with Stomp Footswitch 4 and 5 are the 2 that you have. So again, that's why I really like this Mission Engineering TT2. Again, link in the description down below. This thing is great. It's so compact and just gave me 2 more buttons. It's exactly what I needed. But what do you want to set that to? Do you want to set it to tap tuner, tap, tempo, and tuner, Stomp 4, bank up, bank down. So right now I have it set to bank down. So every time I push this, it does the bank down. Make sense? Set it to preset down. So every time I push this, it goes down a preset. Make sense? Something also is that you don't get this with Footswitch 3, but you get with Footswitch 4 and 5. You can do FS mode, so Footswitch mode. So this is actually nice. So you have to push page button to switch between Stomp mode and then preset mode, and then just like kind of the 3 closest presets, or snapshot mode. You can actually set this. So I have this go up or down Footswitch mode. So I'm going to set it to up. And now, whoops, it actually scrolls through those for me. So you don't really have a way to push these while you're playing. So if you want to switch to Footswitch mode and then snapshot mode, you can do that. Pretty convenient. But I have mine set to Stomp 3, Stomp 4, and then Stomp 5 is just always my tap, tempo, and tuner, because I like having control over my delays and being able to access my tuner as well. But if I could set that to Stomp 5, or I could do bank up, bank down, preset up, preset down, snapshot up or down, Footswitch mode, up or down, all bypass, or toggle between 2 different expression pedals. All right, scrolling over. Expression pedals. Your expression pedal 1 and expression pedal 2 position. Do you want that to be remembered globally, per preset, or per snapshot? So most of the time I think you're going to be on global. So if you have an expression pedal, do you want on preset 119, let's say you have a volume pedal in there. Do you want the volume pedal to remember that the volume pedal is at 50% when you load this preset? Or even on this snapshot, you want this snapshot to remember that your volume pedal is at 50%? If so, you would set expression pedal 1 or 2, whichever one you're trying to save, to be either remember per snapshot, per preset, or just global. I have a feeling global's the one that you'll use the most, but I mean, it all just depends on your setup. But I think most of the time you're going to want it to be global. So if you have an expression pedal, like a volume pedal or a wah pedal, you want it to just remember where it's at currently. But if you did want to change that, you can do that. And again, you have that with expression pedal 1 or 2 as well. Scrolling over to MIDI, if you don't understand much stuff about MIDI, but this might go over your head a little bit. I've done multiple videos on it about the HX Stomp, how to control your HX Stomp and Helix using MIDI, as well as just explaining MIDI, so be sure to check out those videos. But I'm still going to go through this anyways. So MIDI bass channel, what is the bass channel that you're going to send and receive information on? If you're not using multiple pedals to control with MIDI, you don't really have to worry about this. However, I use multiple pedals that I control with MIDI. So if you're going to do that, I recommend setting that to anything besides 1. So I have this set on MIDI channel 4. So when I am doing MIDI programming and I'm sending MIDI information to my HX Stomp, I send information on MIDI channel 4. If I'm sending information from my HX Stomp to another device, I send it out on MIDI channel 4 as well. That's the bass channel. MIDI through, on or off. You have the MIDI out, MIDI in, and then MIDI out /through here on the side. Do you want it to act as a MIDI through? Turn it on. or off. So MIDI through means if it's on, anything that goes in on the MIDI in, either through MIDI in or through USB, do you want to pass that information to another pedal? So if you're daisy chaining MIDI pedals, that's convenient. So let's say, I'm going from my stomp, I'm going from my computer to my stomp to a keyboard or something like that. The MIDI cable would go into the HX Stomp and then go out to my keyboard. The keyboard reads on MIDI channel 3. This reads on MIDI channel 4. I still want to pass info from the computer into my keyboard. So I do want to send MIDI info through to the keyboard. On or off. Again, if that's too much for you, check out my videos on MIDI. Receive MIDI clock information. Do you want it on automatic, USB, MIDI, or off? So do you want to receive MIDI clock information from somewhere else? So MIDI clock information is good for like syncing up tempos and stuff and delays and stuff like that. Set it to auto, so wherever it receives information from, it understands that. If you only want to get MIDI clock information from the USB port or from the MIDI port, or you don't want any MIDI clock information. Do you want to transmit MIDI clock information from your HX Stomp to something else? So if I want the tempos, whatever tempos I have programmed per preset in here, if I want to send the MIDI clock information to like a drum machine or something like that, do I want to send that information out? Do you want it off? Do you want to send that MIDI information via the MIDI port, the USB port, or both of them? You have that option. Tempo select. Do you want the tempo to be remembered globally? So whatever you last set your tempo, remember this was my tap tempo. So if I set it to 30 beats per minute, when I load another preset, do I want it to remember 30 beats per minute? Or do I want each preset to have its own tempo? Or even each snapshot to have its own tempo? I actually leave this on preset because oftentimes I will actually program songs because we'll play to a click, and I want the delays remembered. So here's one of my songs, here's another one, and here's another one. And I want the delays to be exactly where I want it with the tempo. So I know that I always play this song to a click at a certain tempo, so I want my delays remembered exactly as I had them programmed. So I have that set to preset. Oh, and you can see. So my global, well, actually I'll set that back. So on this specific song, I want the beats per minute to be set to 142. So again, I want the preset to remember what tempo I'm at so that my delay syncs up. And you'll actually see the BPM over here change. When I go to global, it's just whatever settings I have my delay set to, it just remembers that across all the presets and all the snapshots. So that's something convenient for sure. If you're syncing up specific songs and you want the delay to be exact, you want to set it to preset. Here's your beats per minute right here as well, and you can set that just to like a global beats per minute and stuff like that. But I can set it here by the tap tempo, or if I wanted to program in a specific BPM, you can do that as well. That's what BPM is. MIDI over USB, is it on or off? Are you getting MIDI? Are you even using MIDI over USB? For transmitting or receiving, turn it off or on. I actually use it, so I'm going to leave that on. MIDI PC receive. Are you receiving program change information to your HX Stomp? Again, I did a video on how to control your HX Stomp with MIDI, so this needs to be on if you plan to do that. But do you want to not get any program change information? Do you want to only get it through the MIDI input, only through the USB input, or through both? MIDI program change transmit, same idea. Do you want the HX Stomp to transmit program change information? Set it to either off because you don't want to. Set it to MIDI if you just want to transmit MIDI out of the MIDI port, or just out of USB, or out of both. So that's it for MIDI. Last one is the displays. This one's pretty easy. You have dim and, so the LED rings, do you want them off and bright or dim and bright? So what that means is when you are in, let me find something for stomp mode. So see when I'm in stomp mode, I have a tremolo assigned to this one. See how it's lit blue, but then when I turn it off, it's like this dim blue. If you don't want that, you just set it to off so that none of these are even lit up, and then I step on it and it's blue. I don't know why you would really want that. It kind of helps to remember, oh, this is a distortion, this is a tremolo, and this is a delay. So it lights up and it's kind of dim on each one. So I don't know why you would turn that off. And then the tap tempo, do you want that on or off? So I'm actually going to go back. I'm going to unplug this so this thing doesn't flip out again. I'm going to set Footswitch 3 to always be a tap tempo. So see how it's blinking? If for some reason you don't want to see that, tap LED, turn it off. And now it's off. I mean, most of the time you'll leave that on. Make sense? So that's basically all of the presets. I am going to show you that one that was pretty pointless. I did want to show you one more thing. Push these two buttons, scroll over. You do also have a global EQ. So you have a low cut, a low, a mid, a high, and a high cut in here. One of the things I actually go over is I actually scoop out everything below 85, 80-ish hertz, because you don't really, that's what gives you kind of mud. And I find that's cutting everything above 8 kilohertz actually kind of just cleans up your tone just a little bit, because otherwise it makes it sound too fuzzy and nasty, in my opinion. But you do have a global EQ in here if you want to have an EQ that applies to every single patch, which again, I recommend cutting below 80 hertz for, especially for guitar. Okay, and then last but not least, I'm going to show you this final one right here. In preferences, the bypass type, analog versus DSP. So when you push these two buttons right here, you're in analog bypass, and then you push any button to get out of it. You can also set it to DSP, so you push these two buttons right here, DSP bypass. So what that was supposed to do, it's supposed to, when you push bypass, it's supposed to mute all of the reverb tails and the delay tails and stuff like that. Or it's either you let it ring out. This is what the manual says. I don't know. I don't really see a point to this. So when I strum, so let me do just a reverb with a lot of decay. That mutes it right away. When I do it to analog, it still mutes it right away. So I don't really know what that's used for. I don't know. If you know, leave a comment down below. So, hey, congratulations if you made it to the end of this video. Props to you. This is a long video. I didn't expect for it to get this long. So if you didn't make it to the end of this video, just do me a favor and just hit the like button. It does a lot to help out the YouTube algorithm. Recommends my channel, recommends this video to more people. Lets YouTube know that you liked it and found it valuable. So if you could do that, it would definitely help me out. Don't forget to subscribe to see more info like this in the future. Also, do me a favor, leave a comment down below with whatever aha moment you had that you went, oh, I could actually use that, and you changed your settings. Let me know which one you found the most valuable. Links are in the description down below where if you want to get this Mission Engineering TT2, this thing is definitely worth it. You also might notice I'm actually using a different power supply. I actually did a video about, it's the MyVolts ripcord, and you actually can power your gear via USB. It's really cool, and it's actually a backup cable that I can use as well. Also, the wireless right here, I just did a video on that one as well, if you're interested in checking that out. I'll be done pushing all my other videos and extending this video even longer than it already is. So yeah, I hope this helped you guys out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, especially if you want to see more videos like this in the future. I am going to do a video on the Helix as well about this, so be sure to check that out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys again for watching. Links are in the description down below, and I'll see you guys next time.